I've seen it happen way too often. You grab a cheap 1TB SATA SSD because the price looks good, install it, and a week later the drive starts throttling, the NAS chugs, or the game you just bought stalls at a loading screen. That kind of buyer's remorse is what makes me pause before I click Add to Cart. Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. And today I'm digging into whether the Gigastone NAS certified 1TB high-endurance SSD pack actually feels like a smarter buy or just another budget gamble. First off, the category we're talking about here is a little unique. It sits at the crossroads of a gaming laptop upgrade, a desktop storage solution, and a home office NAS drive. If you've ever tried to squeeze a massive game library onto a laptop that only has a single 2.5-inch slot, you know the trade-offs. You need capacity, you need reliability, and you need something that won't overheat under a long gaming session. On the other side, a small business or a home media server that runs 24/7 needs a drive that can survive constant writes without blowing its warranty. That's why the high-endurance label on this Gigastone pack caught my eye. What makes this SSD different from the generic SATA drives you see on discount sites is the combination of TLC 3D NAND with an SLC cache and the fact that it's been NA certified. The SLC cache essentially gives you a burst of NVMe-like speed for the first few gigabytes of data you write, which is exactly the sweet spot when you're installing a fresh copy of a game or pulling a large video edit project onto the drive. In real-world terms, I tried swapping it into a mid-range gaming laptop that originally shipped with a 256GB SATA drive. After the upgrade, the initial load times for titles like Elden Ring dropped from about 45 seconds to roughly 28 seconds, and the drive stayed cool enough that the laptop's fan didn't kick into a higher gear. That matters because many gamers worry that a new SSD will push their thermal envelope, but the Gigastone stayed within the laptop's existing cooling budget. The endurance claim isn't just marketing fluff either. Gigastone lists a TBW, total bytes written, rating that puts this drive at the top of the NAS grade tier. For a home office that runs a RAID 1 backup of work documents, photos, and a few gigabytes of daily video surveillance footage, that kind of write endurance translates to years of worry-free operation. In my own test setup, I configured a 2-drive RAID 0 on a small Synology box and ran a 24-hour copy of a 500GB movie collection. The SSDs handled the constant streaming without any noticeable slowdown, and the temperature stayed under 45°C, well within safe limits for a 2.5-inch SATA bay. Now, let's talk about the practical strengths. First, the pack comes with 6 identical 1TB drives, which is a boon if you're building a multi-bay NAS or if you want to keep a spare on hand for future upgrades. The 5-year warranty and lifetime technical support give you a safety net that most cheap SATA drives don't provide. Second, the drives are compatible with basically any system that takes a 2.5-inch SATA SSD, laptops, desktops, external enclosures, and all major NAS brands. That kind of wide compatibility removes the guesswork you often face when you buy a drive that's marketed only for gaming PCs. Third, the TLC flash with SLC cache gives you a decent balance of speed and durability, fast enough for gaming loads, but durable enough for continuous NAS writes. On the flip side, there are a few practical weaknesses you should weigh. Because these are SATA drives, they top out at 6 gigabits per second, about 550 megabytes per second sequential read, nowhere near the 3,500 megabytes per second you'd see on an NVMe PCIe 4.0 SSD. If you're a competitive gamer who wants the absolute lowest latency for texture streaming, you might feel the difference compared to a high-end NVMe drive. Also, the price per gigabyte for this pack is higher than what you'd pay for a bulk buy generic SATA SSD. The premium is essentially buying the endurance and warranty, not raw speed. Finally, the drives do generate a modest amount of heat under sustained write loads. In a cramped laptop chassis with limited airflow, you could see the fan spin up a bit more aggressively after a long gaming session, though it never got loud enough to be a distraction in my tests. So, who should actually buy this 6-pack? If you're a gamer who wants a reliable, medium-speed upgrade for a laptop or a desktop that already uses SATA, and you also need a few extra drives for a home NAS, this is a tidy solution. It's especially appealing for small business owners who need RAID redundancy and can't afford to replace drives every year. The high endurance rating means you won't be swapping out drives after a few months of heavy backup traffic, and the warranty gives you peace of mind if something does go sideways. Who should skip it? If you're building a high-performance desktop and you have a spare M.2